Real fighting did not happen. Real war did not happen.
A decade later, the victory is much less clear-cut. The Iraqi forces are long gone from Kuwait, but the United Nations sanctioned embargo is still in place over Iraq. The toll on its ordinary citizens is staggering.
There has never been an international sanctions regime even close to as rigorous and as tightly imposed as the sanctions that have been imposed on Iraq.
Saddam Hussein is one thing, and what's happening to the Iraqi people is a different thing. The Iraqi people are starving. People are dying.
Every one of us has lost children or members of their families. Not one Iraqi can say that he have lost no one. Every one of us lost our beloved.
Back in 1990, economic sanctions were seen, I believe, as a good alternative to military activity and force. Since then, however, they've been sustained now for, over 9 years. They have had an impact on the people of Iraq, which is, in the view of many of us, genocidal, in the sense that economic sanctions, on top of the damage done by the Americans and others in the Gulf War, has led to the death of possibly 1 or 1.5 million Iraqi people, and particularly children. So the maintenance of these economic sanctions breach the Geneva Conventions on warfare, because, as we all know, civilians are not to be targeted in war nor in economic sanctions programs.
The general condition in our country deteriorated since 1990. Also the deficiency of the vaccinations, including the absence of basic things like toilet paper. This leads to outbreaks of many infectious diseases.
Before the war, I couldn't see any child suffer from the malnutrition in our country. Al-Bara Saleh, 6 years. Her weight corresponds to the age of 1 year or less because of the deficiency of protein. The 6-month-old infant suffers from the chronic diarrhea. He needs special formula of milk to stop the diarrhea. This medical milk is not available.
In 1991, the United Nations voted a resolution meant to ease the impact of sanctions on the Iraqi population.
The idea behind the Oil for Food program was simple. That is, Iraq could use a certain amount of its oil revenues for the purposes of taking care of the needs of the Iraqi people.
When the thing started, there were some incidents that are, it's like black comedy, that are funny, because one of the companies had a contract to supply eggs, and the contract was sent for approval, and it seems the American delegate, without even looking, put it on hold and asked for explanation about the end use of this product. And the answer came back, you know, you boil it and you eat it, or you fry it, and you eat it. I mean, these are eggs. This should give you an idea about how things are done.
So oil for food, in my view, where it has maintained a level of intake in terms of food, inadequate, although that certainly is, it has failed in terms of addressing the needs of the Iraqi people. And thus we've seen the maintenance of malnutrition, the death of infants in particular.
Since yesterday, we missed 2 babies because of shortage of oxygen supply due to no electrical power necessary to make the oxygen.
This baby will die at any time because there is no oxygen. But we choose that baby because his weight is higher than this. Chance of survival of that baby better than this baby.
I feel sad because I can't do anything, I can't help these patients.
We have no gripe or animus against the people of Iraq. Our problem is with its government.
This baby named Amal Salim, 1-year-old infant, and we diagnosed as pneumonia. She couldn't receive the proper treatment of antibiotic, and therefore the baby died. Especially, we have shortage of clavuran antibiotic. This patient needed it.
What is it to the UN and to the Americans to impose sanctions on medicine? I mean, only crazy people would do this. I mean, this is medicine. What's multi-use? Are they going to make atomic bomb out of a few tablets of medicine here or there?
Let me make clear that the purpose of the Security Council resolutions with sanctions as their tool was so that Iraq should not be a threat to peace and security again.
We uncovered the bulk of what the Iraqis were able to produce in terms of chemical weapons, biological weapons, ballistic missiles, and nuclear weapons. The infrastructure that Iraq used to produce these weapons has largely been dismantled, destroyed, or under monitoring by the weapons inspectors. So we have a good idea of what should be left. It's not very much.
Despite that, the U.S. has consistently moved the goalposts and said it's not enough if they abide by the requirements regarding weapons of mass destruction. Instead of saying, if you abide by the requirements of the UN resolution, sanctions will be lifted, the U.S. message is, it doesn't matter whether you comply or not, we're not going to lift sanctions anyway.
When UNSCOM began, I believe it was a legitimate effort to track down and destroy dangerous weaponry. And in fact, the Atomic Energy Agency and others were just about ready to clear UNSCOM, their work, and agree that Iraq was clean. Then Richard Butler was appointed, and he reopened many of the issues that in fact had been closed, and seemed to bring a new element to the investigation, perhaps very much supported by Washington.
Unfortunately, the actions of its executive chairman, Richard Butler, in concert with the United States government, allowed UNSCOM to be manipulated in a way which was outside the guidelines set forth by its true boss, the Security Council. The United States and the United Kingdom used UNSCOM as a trigger for the initiation of military action. The United States and Great Britain used information gathered by weapons inspectors to provide targets for their bombing. This is an accepted fact. So UNSCOM as an organization has been discredited.
It's true that an inspection entity of that sort can be manipulated politically and give an excuse to the more aggressive member states for further military action. And in a sense, we have that every day, almost every day of the week, when UK and American planes are bombing Iraq.
The Americans are bombing what they call the Iraqi radars, which is not true. They are bombing infrastructure. They are bombing homes of people. They have even bombed a tent of Bedouins with their animals, with the whole family who are dead. Every single day there was a bombing of Iraq. But not one of the media have spoken about that.
Now, if you don't see it in the media abroad, it's because I think people are, and it's becoming a too small story for it's not as interesting as before.
On the 17th of January 1993, Bush sent 42